I'm generating over $3,000 a month in dividend income. Today, I'm going to show you how I'm doing it, what I'm invested in, and on average, what they're paying. This is Tony with Dividends After Dark. Thank you for joining me for my portfolio unveiling. So you'll see that I'm invested in mostly high yield or options income ETFs. The reason for this is just the insane amount of yield that they generate and that monthly or weekly cash flow that they provide. With this cash flow, it allows me to be able to quit my 9 to 5, or in this case, my 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. full-time job, and pursue focusing on my business while supplementing my income quite heavily with the dividends that these stocks are paying me. So let's get into it. Over on the screen now, you should be able to see what I'm invested in. I've got the largest position in my portfolio is NVDY. This is from Title. It's their Yieldmax portfolio, which I'm very heavily invested in, as you'll see. And this is an NVDA option income strategy. So that makes up almost 32% of my account. I hadn't actually noticed that it had creeped up so high. I was keeping it in the next one here. 26% is in Tesla. I have 2,552 shares of that. I thought it was my largest, I guess because of the share number. This is a Tesla option income from Yieldmax again. And then one of my newer positions, HHIS. This is from Harvest. This is the first one that is actually in Canadian dollars instead of USD. I love this fund from Harvest. It's probably one of my most successful, lower paying than most of the other stuff on here. But what I love about it is its consistency and that I'm actually up a lot on it on my share price, which, by the way, you'll notice you're not seeing here. We might get to that later. That one is now up to 19% of my portfolio, and it's really where I'm focusing my reinvestments on right now. Following that is Coney, back to another Yieldmax. This one is on Coinbase, another income option strategy here, of course, 959 shares there. And this one is back to USD. Next is MSTY, or as I like to say, Misty, another Yieldmax. This one's on MSTR strategy company, largely invested in Bitcoin at this point. I know they do some software stuff, but that's really a small part of their business now. They're largely a Bitcoin holding company. 5.5% of my total TFSA. By the way, these are all in my TFSA. I have 383 shares of that. And then HISA, I don't actually consider this to be part of my dividend portfolio, even though they do pay a small yield. This is really just my business savings. It's where I put some extra money that belongs to the owner's compensation fund. I stick it in here because I get around a 2% yield off of it, and that's higher than I was getting with my regular bank. So I'll talk about that probably in a future video that goes into kind of my business accounting a bit more. Back to another Yieldmax, Alti. This one I've got into fairly recently, and it's another one that I'm focusing on building right now along with HHIS. With Alti, I like it because, well, one, it was paying weekly. Now the rest of the Yieldmax that I have has switched to weekly. But what I liked about Alti was that it was fairly consistent. Since I started buying into it, I've seen either 9 or 10 cents paid per share every week. So it's a nice consistent one that I can watch grow. And then we have WNTR, Winter, which is our short from Yieldmax on MSTR. So if MSTR goes down, Winter pays better. Just a small percent there, kind of hedging my bets. And then we have AMC, not dividend at all, not part of my play. It's just sitting there as a badge of honor. No, badge of honor probably isn't right. Badge of mistakes. AMC was my entry into the stock market, and I don't know if I'll ever sell it. And then we have a very small position in TELUS, which was an early dividend play, and I'm down on it and just haven't bothered selling. I'd rather collect the small dividend I get every quarter. And then we get into some that I've actually sold off almost all of. You'll see very, very low amounts of all of these. Mostly I sold all of my full shares and just kept whatever fractional I had left as kind of a reminder to go back and rebuy into them. So we have EIT.UN, we have HYLD, and we have DMAX. I really like these funds, and I do plan on growing them again, but I actually sold all of them. And oh, I forgot to mention FTN. I started buying back into FTN a little bit, but I plan to rebuy into all of these. I sold them all in order to go kind of all in on NVDY and Tesla. Again, that's something that I'll talk about in a future video, the decisions that I made. I'll probably do a video at some point that just walks through the timeline of my investing, starting with my good friend AMC, and then moving through all the other decisions that I've made along the way.
All right, I thought maybe we'd walk through some of my highest positions and what they've been paying.
So here we see the payments that Tesla has made. These are most recent. We've gone almost 2,050 US dollars, and then 1,000 US dollars the month before. Back in September. August, we got 767. So you can see we're varying widely. Back to July, $988. In June, $1,028. These are all USD prices, so that goes pretty far towards my Canadian family's budget. But you can see the most important thing to note is how much they vary. You might get $750 one month and $2,050 the next month. That's wild swings. Then if we look at the NVDY, we can see this morning it paid out $182. Well, that's almost nothing compared to what it has been paying out, well over 1,000 USD for that. But that's largely because of the switch to weekly that it's just made starting this week. So we'll see how that plays out in the weeks to come. Remember to get subscribed, follow along. You'll be able to see what it's doing in real time along with me. A little frightening. It's also down in percent a whole lot, but that's because just last week it already paid out 1,325 US. So for this month, the payment is still very good. We can see back to July. Back further, we have higher payments, but I just included the screenshot of the most recent. So 1,300 USD last week, now 180 USD. Last month, it paid out 1,070, almost 1,400 in August, 1,700 in July. So again, we're seeing those very heavy swings in how much it pays. Makes it a little bit tough to rely on, but we're kind of playing the average gains with this portfolio. Here we can see Coney, C-O-N-Y, the Coinbase option strategy from Yieldmax, a much smaller position that I have, but again, we can highlight how big the swings are. We go from 433, 330, up to 763. So from month to month, now this will be from week to week, starting this week. We'll see how much it changes, how big these swings are. With the week to week, I'm kind of hoping to see them smooth out a little bit. Maybe we won't see quite so big of swings as we have been while it's been month to month or every 4 weeks. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes. We'll see how much it'll pay. And that goes for all of them, of course. Okay, this is our MSTY, our MicroStrategy Yieldmax income fund. We've got 387 last month, 417, 433, 400, 365. Again, these are all USD. So again, we've got variation. Some of this, I've been buying more into it, and we haven't seen the numbers just continue to climb. That's just the way these Yieldmax funds work. Okay, looking at HHIS, you'll be able to see why I like this one so much and why I'm building on it. So HHIS, instead of being variable every month, it pays 25 cents a share. Of course, Harvest could decide to change that. They could lower it, they could raise it, but every month since this fund was created, it has paid 25 cents a share. So that means that back in June, when I started buying into it, I got paid $210. Then I bought more, reinvested that, added some more money into the fund and bought more HHIS. We got $280. Continued that trend. August, we got $325. Bought some more. September, we got 357. Now we're up to 405 this month. These are all Canadian dollars, which is also nice. I don't have to convert them in order to be usable for me and my family. But the big thing is the more I buy, the more I get paid. I view this as something that I would like to build into a foundation. If I could get to the point where HHIS alone covers my needs, especially my most basic needs for me and my family, that would be great because it's so dependable. Okay, and here are those overall dividends earned. So first and foremost, you can see the total all time. This is really since 2022, I think I started investing in dividend funds, but the bulk of this has been in the last 2 years, really since last September when I went heavy into Yieldmax. Most of this has been earned. So we can see the all-time Tesla has paid me 35,000 Canadian dollars. NVDY, 29,000. You can see why those are core positions in my portfolio. Then moving down the list, we have a pretty big drop down to Coney, almost 5,500 Canadian. MSTY, 4,500 Canadian. HHIS, remember, this is a new position. I only started buying into it earlier this year, already at 1,900 Canadian.
As you can see, most of my $3,000 a month bread and butter, if you will, is coming from TSLY and NVDY. I'm working to change that, but right now, it's working, and I'm not going to complain about it. We'll have to see in the comments what happens. I know there's a lot of haters on Yieldmax in general, TSLY, Tesla. We'll see if they come out. I don't know if this video will be popular enough to bring them out, but there's a lot that hate these funds. They talk about NAV erosion. Yes, the NAV does go down. My capital that I've put into these funds is definitely down, but to me that doesn't compare with how much they've paid out and what they're enabling me to do. This is really life-changing. I've been able to quit a full-time job and have these funds replace that for me. That is massive. Is it the best strategy for you? That's up to you to decide. Each and every investor needs to make their own decisions. I am not a financial advisor, and this is not financial advice. If you follow along with me and lose it all, please do not blame me. I'll have enough problems as it is if that happens. But the point is, these income options might not be what you need to invest in right now. In fact, if you're not at the point of being ready to quit a job and live off of the income from these funds, I would suggest not investing in them. I would probably look at more of a growth play so that you can grow that money, that base, that capital, and then at a future time when you are ready to go all in, quit a job, live off of this. Maybe this isn't until your retirement age, maybe you're building towards an early retirement. At that point, you can switch and start using that income to live off of. Make your own decisions, do your own research, do your due diligence. Don't trust me, don't trust anyone else you see blabbering on YouTube. We're all just trying to make our own way, figure things out for ourselves, and go from there. That being said, I'm happy to share what I do know with you. I'm happy to share why I've made the decisions I've made. So if you have any questions, leave them in the comments. I'll get back to you either in the comments or maybe I'll incorporate your questions into a future video. Next week's video on Wednesday will probably be looking at how I check what I'm going to be paid. It's almost like checking your pay stub online before it hits your account. In this case, I'll be taking a look at Yieldmax's website to see how they announce what they're going to be paying. I'll do the math to see approximately what should be hitting my account. We'll talk a little bit about US taxes and how that works with these Yieldmax funds. So get subscribed, hit that like button, and catch me in next week's video.